Well, good evening. I'm Sean O'Keefe, and along with my good friend Donna Shalala, we're pleased to serve as the co-chairs of this evening's festivities and welcome you all to an event that's been in the making for 90 years. Thank you all for joining us for this great celebration on a most historic occasion. 54 years ago, after the founding of Syracuse University in 1870, the university and community leaders of that era had the vision and aspiration to organize an academic enterprise dedicated to the proposition that citizenship in our communities and in this great nation is both a privilege and a responsibility. The School of Citizenship and Public Affairs was founded owing to that vision and the generous philanthropy of George Maxwell, in the fond hopes that this sense of duty be passed along to generations to come. Those lofty aspirations of these visionary founders resulted in the nation's preeminent School of Public Affairs, a top ranking that has been sustained for decades. Indeed, the power of an idea that inspired the generations that followed grew to encompass a global view of this duty of citizenship. Over the span of its 90 years, the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs has been charged with its mission by a succession of energetic and dedicated leaders who have served as chancellors of Syracuse University. Today, the university community is most fortunate to be led by an extraordinary professional who is no less dedicated to the time-tested vision carried on by his predecessors and bequeathed to each of them by those visionaries that founded the school. A native of upstate New York, early this year, Chancellor Kent Severud returned to a familiar community to lead our university after extensive experience in public service, the legal profession, academic administration, and as a scholar and educator. No stranger to the responsibility of citizenship, he served as a clerk to the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, a trustee of Deepwater Horizon Oil Spill Trust, chair of the American Bar Association's section on legal education, dean of the Vanderbilt University School of Law, and most recently as a dean of the Washington University School of Law in St. Louis, Missouri. He earned his academic degrees at the Georgetown University School of Foreign Service and the University of Michigan Law School. Since his arrival on campus at Syracuse University in January of this year, he has embraced the duties of leading this great institution with energy, with enthusiasm, with compassion, and an evident sense of commitment. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce the 12th Chancellor and President of Syracuse University, Kent Severud.
Sean, many years ago when I was a very young academic and had just become dean of the Vanderbilt Law School, we had a reunion of all the leaders of the Kennedy Justice Department in the Parthenon in Nashville. And John Siegenthaler, who recently passed and who many of you know, gave a similarly exaggerated introduction to the one Sean just gave to me. And then I marched up to the stage, and the podium was directly in front of a 25-foot statue of Athena. And what I had to say after that exaggerated introduction was, "We are truly in the presence of giants." And I feel that right now. I feel so many giants present tonight, and people who I've admired and studied for years, of course, many of whom are speaking, some of whom are not, but Brent Snowcroft here, Bill Webster, Strobe Talbot, and of course, two people for whom any school would be so wildly proud to be associated, Donna Shalala and Sean O'Keefe. So I also have to say that there's a lot of unsung giants here. I've learned so much about the history of the Maxwell School and the great deans and faculty, current and past, who made it what it is. And I see so many of you here, and I thank you for making it a great school. It is the start of the 10th decade of the Maxwell School that is being marked today, getting ready for the centennial anniversary in 2024. The place founded in 1924 as the School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, part of the College of Liberal Arts. Right at the beginning, it had a course in undergraduate citizenship. It had a weekly department and seminar in political science. It had a graduate program in political science, the first MPA program in the United States. So much has changed in 90 years. School named for George Maxwell. It's become so internationally renowned for the quality of its programs and its graduates, for its social science research, for its research and scholarship, and for being a collaborative place that embraces the world and embraces its students. I think the obvious thing to say is that Syracuse University would not be what it is without this gem at its core in the Maxwell School. So many things have changed in 90 years, but citizenship, social science scholarship, professional education, and public affairs is still at the core of Maxwell and still what Syracuse is so proud of. I know you're going to hear this evening about the launch of a unique new initiative to reimagine citizenship education and scholarship. I know this project will pay homage to Maxwell's traditional role and its hopes for the next decade and beyond. There's been a lot of creative ways to create excitement around this idea of citizenship, including hashtag #ToMeCitizenship, which I've learned to look at, the thought bubble campaign, showing what each of us thinks citizenship is. It's got so many different meanings and interpretations, but there's not a better place in the world to explore it than at Maxwell, including at Maxwell in its new home in Washington, D.C., in the Center for Strategic and International Studies. I remember when CSIS was associated with a different basketball power. It was in the car barn in Georgetown, and like me, I'm happy to say, SICE has migrated to Syracuse and become associated with it. The person who's responsible for this and so many wonderful initiatives at the school is Dean James Steinberg. Jim joined Syracuse as Maxwell's Dean and University Professor of Political Science, International Affairs, and Law just 3 years ago, after serving as Deputy Secretary of State under President Obama and Secretary Hillary Clinton. Since joining our university, Jim has been active in every aspect of university life as a teacher, both of graduate and undergraduate students. As a scholar, his recent book on U.S.-China relations has just been published by Princeton University Press to wonderful reviews this year. And of course, as a dean leading our school. His wife, Cherie Abbott, is also with us tonight, is a university professor and vice president and leads all sustainability initiatives at the university. Jim's priorities include helping to raise the profile of Maxwell scholars and students, not just in the United States, but around the world. The new partnership he created with the Center for Strategic and International Studies through partnerships and long friendships here offers just such great opportunities for our students and great facilities and interactions. And I think all of us can see that tonight. And I'm very grateful for that initiative. Jim has worked to recruit spectacular faculty to Syracuse University, including, most notably, and what makes me the happiest of all, tonight's co-chair, Sean O'Keefe, who I would like us to congratulate as the newly appointed university professor and Fansteel chair in the Maxwell School. Let's all now welcome our Dean, James Steinberg.
Well, thanks, Kent, and to Sean and to all of you. It's really so exciting to see so many friends and supporters of Maxwell and so many great supporters of the work that we've all been doing together over the years. I'm going to be very brief at this stage because my main job is to send the cue to the people who are going to serve you dinner, and then I'll look forward to coming back and talking to you a little bit at the end of our program tonight about some of the exciting new initiatives that we're working on at Maxwell, especially focused on this critically important concept of citizenship. But I just want to begin again by thanking all of you for being with us tonight. It's going to be an exciting program. We're especially excited about this first award of the Moynihan Spirit of Public Service that we'll be offering tonight, and I hope you'll have just a delightful evening with a great group of people. Thanks so much.
We want to try to get everybody out of here before breakfast, so we probably ought to get started. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Bob Schieffer, and I'm going to kind of moderate things from here on in. And the Chancellor here was talking about a room of giants. It's not just a room of giants, it's a giant crowd here for a Washington weeknight. It's cold out there. And it's wonderful to see so many people here in this brand new, wonderful headquarters of CSIS. I'm going to share the duties of host here tonight with two of the Maxwell School's most devoted and distinguished alumni, the co-chairs for tonight's event, former NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe, whom you already met, and University of Miami President Donna Shalala, from whom you'll be hearing later. I was very pleased and honored to be asked to be a part of this tonight. Jim Steinberg is an old friend of mine. Our relationship goes way back to before his days in Washington, back when he was the dean of the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs at Austin. And the year my daughter was graduating from that school, Jim asked me to come down and give the commencement address, and we had a great time telling LBJ stories. So it's fun to be back and to see Jim, and I'll tell you, there are a lot of them. I'm also want to tell you, I very much appreciate what the Maxwell School and its graduates are doing. If there were ever a time when we needed serious, smart young people to go into public service, I can't remember when that time would have been. We have just come through an election that cost us $4 billion. Yet only 37% of the voters believe that what happened on Election Day was so important that they ought to participate. A voter turnout of 37%. Confidence in all of our government institutions that we once took for granted has never been lower. Congress remains in gridlock, but that is not the problem. It is a symptom of what has happened to our political system. The way we elect our candidates has literally gone off the tracks. We have been overwhelmed by money and the need to raise it. Time and again, serious people are either leaving public service or passing up the opportunity to serve because they believe it is no longer worth the effort. The financial floodgates are open and have overwhelmed the system. Here's a little factoid for you. Campaign finance reform actually began after the abuses of the Nixon administration. During that administration, 42 people were indicted, and many of them served jail terms. All of the things that they were indicted for, with the exception of breaking into the Watergate Hotel, are now legal. What we have built here is a cottage industry that is making scores of consultants and strategists rich beyond their wildest dreams. What we have not created is a system that is producing better candidates. Instead, it is driving good people away from politics. They just don't want to do anymore what has to be done, spend half their time spending and begging people for money. Too many times we're left with the people who are willing to do that, and that is the talent pool all too often from which many of our elected officials are chosen. So I say to all of you here tonight, thank you for what you are doing. You have never been more needed than you are now. Tonight is about many aspects of the Maxwell School and its mission, but it starts with an anniversary. The Maxwell School is 90 years old this year. That is even older than Face the Nation. It just celebrated its 60th anniversary, and it is even older than me. We have a little video tonight that's going to help you understand how its founding and its history with intertwined traditions of citizenship, education, and interdisciplinary study has brought us to be here tonight. Watch.
Public administration,
international security studies,
international relations, cultural anthropology,
international relations and economics,
anthropology, public administration,
geography, citizenship, and civic engagement in the Maxwell School at Syracuse University.
It's a place that is really representative of what you're going to experience in the world.
The principles of Maxwell around citizenship really embody being the best individual you can be and the best contributor to society that you can be.
A sense that it's not just a job, it's a calling.
Wanting to give back and wanting to do things for the community.
Teaching and learning and public scholarship and citizenship, all of that, all around the world.
Being part of a community that's both focused on top-notch academics, creative thinking about the world, and also the ability to turn that creative thinking into real-world change.
The ability to critically engage in public debates.
Direct citizenship studies, all the social sciences, international relations and public affairs and public administration. It was the mixture that produced Maxwellism.
I've always thought about the applied as well as the academic side of research. And so that was a key part of what attracted me to the school.
One of the uniquenesses of the school is that combining of traditional disciplinary departments in social sciences with programs that are interdisciplinary and professionally oriented.
You cannot be somebody who belongs to Maxwell without being aware of all these scales of engagement, that you belong to the Maxwell community, to Syracuse University, but also simultaneously to the national body of citizenship and the international or global. And I think it is in that fluidity of citizenship that the breadth of citizenship and engagement is located.
Maxwell's focus on informed citizenship is uniquely valuable at a time when the issues of the rights and responsibilities of citizens are being widely debated. They're being debated here in the United States, they're being debated around the world. The question about the efficacy of public and private institutions, the ability of communities to come together to solve problems. This is where Maxwell makes a unique contribution, because our ability to provide informed scholarship with an eye to making a real difference in the world allows us to help contribute to that debate, both through the work of our faculties and our terrific graduates who can go out and help make a difference and help communities come together to solve these very challenging problems.
It's just incredibly motivating to see how much pride everybody has to be a part of that group.
I walk under those beautiful columns and over it says Maxwell School of Citizenship. And to me, citizenship is in the Athenian Oath in the lobby of Maxwell.
The Athenian Oath is the sense of what the school is about. We should dedicate ourselves to a sense of public good and public mission. I attribute that in no small part to the vision and the dedication and the generosity of George Maxwell.
Maxwell's vision was to foster engaged, knowledgeable citizens. And that, of course, was focused on being a United States citizen at the time.
He called it intelligent patriotism.
The founding of the school was really around the undergraduate core curriculum in citizenship education. Well-informed people who understood their responsibilities as citizens and who could help this country thrive as a democracy.
Even if you think you're just taking a college course, these classes are helping you develop these skills and the knowledge that you need to participate, as you should, in our liberal democracy.
Strong work ethic and being an individual and standing up for your opinions and what's right. Have that passion for community involvement and civic engagement.
The other component was training people to work in public service, in government. That was a more professional dimension of it that grew out of the progressive movement, to try to move away from the spoils system into having people who were actually trained to carry out effective good government with the tools and basis of the social sciences.
The interdisciplinary side is one of the things that really brought me to Maxwell. I can develop the quantitative skills of statistics and economics and really know what I'm doing well, but also the sort of interpersonal relationship building skills that comes with being an effective public manager.
And knowing as well that Maxwell saw the value of allowing students to go out and try some of the other schools also here at Syracuse University, I thought was a great thing, which was part of the reason why I chose Maxwell.
Seeing the relationship between Maxwell and the university is a clear advantage. I think when you bring diverse perspectives into a classroom setting, we can only benefit from that.
Here, you're thrown into this place where you have offices next door to historians and economists and geographers and sociologists. The fact that we are all here together in the same institution, in the same building, and even connected more tightly through research institutes and so on in Maxwell, and we team teach together, is just a very different experience for everybody, for students and for faculty.
Interdisciplinarity is not something that's only ideologically presented, it's something that's lived. It's lived in its corridors, it's lived in its spatial arrangement.
I do think I've benefited from how we can choose classes outside of Maxwell School. There was something in my other classes that I could directly link to my major. For example, if I'm taking a geology course, you have to know what effects natural disasters can have on people.
Today we see the citizenship that we teach to be a citizenship that applies to a world much larger than simply the United States.
I feel that I get the mix of that domestic social policy as well as international development. I'm an MPA student, but I'm able to take classes that are sort of geared more towards the MAIR students as well, which has been really useful for me.
This whole notion of citizenship, I think, is critical to the study of policy and the study of public affairs. And I think it goes beyond being a good citizen of one's nation, but really being a citizen of the world.
People's encounters created through global and transnational processes are so complicated in the world today that studying difference and understanding difference is not only about memorizing what these people far away eat and how they pray, but it's really about certain kind of empathy. I think that our students are capable, due to their interdisciplinary training, to engage with the world in a way that's more responsible. It is pausing to think carefully about difference, not to simplify it, to make sense of it, to respect it, not to just catalog it, but to engage with it. And I think this is what we accomplished.
Thoughtful, rigorous analysis applied to real-world problems is one of the most pressing needs we have in our society today. One of the hallmarks of Maxwell is that when we think about the work we do with our students, it's not just preparing them for their first job, but it's preparing them for a career of making a difference. How to not only deal with the challenges of today, but to be ready to meet the challenges of tomorrow.
Well, for all of us as alums and friends of the Maxwell School, this video really strikes a chord of not only great pride, but also emotion. Of all of different folks that we've known over the course of the long number of generations that are here, who've been influenced and profoundly affected by members of the faculty, the staff, and others who really motivated folks to want to pursue opportunities in public service. My story is, in addition to some of the great faculty, I had a wonderful member of the Maxwell staff who, upon seeing the notification that the Scotty Campbell's Pride and Joy program of the Presidential Management Intern Program was being announced for the first time and applications were being accepted, and they listed all the requirements for doing so, she told me, "You need to apply for this opportunity." And I protested and said, "Absolutely not. I'm never going to qualify for any of those things. I mean, I don't meet any of the criteria necessary to do this. So no, I just don't think it's going to be feasible to do that." Ann Stewart persisted and said, "You must apply, because if you don't, it's guaranteed you won't be selected. That's no doubt about it. So you're right. You'll make that come true if you don't apply." And I was fortunate enough to be in the first class of the 1978 Presidential Management Intern Program as a consequence of Ann Stewart. Okay? So thank you. I tried to make up for all my mistakes thereafter, and I tried to work that through, but it was really quite an experience. There are a large number of very special, extraordinary friends of Maxwell who are here this evening, and I do this at great risk to mention several who are among us that we are really indebted and honored by your presence, but all of you as supporters of the Maxwell School and as participants in this great endeavor to recognize the 90th celebration are all very, very special people. So we thank you all for attending this evening. Among the folks who are here that were just graced by their presence, Dr. Ruth Chen, the Chancellor's wife, is here with us. Sherry Abbott, the Dean's wife, is here with us as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. The Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Syracuse University, Dick Thompson, is here with us as well. As well as trustees Judge Joanne Alpern, as well as Jimmy Kuhn. Thank you all very much for being part of this. But in addition to them, the folks who have had a relationship with the Maxwell School over years have found this to be an occasion to be here and have visited Syracuse, have been participating in various programs around the university, and we are indeed indebted to them over the course of all this time that they have been very valiant supporters and great friends of the university. General Brent Scowcroft, the President George H.W. Bush National Security Advisor, is here with us this evening. Thank you, General Scowcroft. Stephen Hadley, President George W. Bush's National Security Advisor, is here as well. Nice to see you, sir. Where is he? Sitting over here. Thank you. Judge Bill Webster, the former director of the CIA, the head of the FBI, and a judge from... Thank you, Your Honor. He's had a nexus with Kent Severud by virtue of having been on the advisory board, I guess, of the Washington University School of Law, but also a tremendous friend and great supporter of so many of us here in the room. I'd also like to draw attention to three extraordinary people who have received a prior recognition of the award that we're making here this evening. Each were recipients of the Maxwell School's Public Service Award. Charles Chuck Willey is a distinguished sociologist and the Charles William Elliott Professor of Education Emeritus at Harvard University. John White is the former Deputy Secretary of Defense with a long career in public, academic, and private endeavors, and has been a real stalwart for Syracuse University and the Maxwell School over many years by his great service as well as his contributions as well. John, it's great to see you. And Walter Broadnax, currently a faculty member at the Maxwell School, following an extraordinary career in state and federal service after leaving the Maxwell School in his doctorate, serving as Deputy Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services for my co-chair here this evening, Donna Shalala, and as President of Clark Atlanta University. Walter, it's a real thrill to see you here this evening as well. Thank you. A fourth recipients of Maxwell's Public Service Award had planned to join us here this evening, and that's Paul Volcker. Unfortunately, an urgent personal matter arose that have required him to meet some obligations with some great friends who have suffered some personal tragedy. And as a consequence, Chairman Volcker could not join us here this evening. He has long been a really extraordinary friend of the Maxwell School, serving in our advisory board for as long as I've ever been associated with the school, working with our faculty on a wide range of different issues, including civil service reform objectives and trying to work through a wide range of other public policy matters, and as a staunch advocate for the values of and public appreciation for a career in service of society. Though he could not be here tonight, he was able to send us his heartfelt sentiments in the following video. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present our good friend, the former Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Paul Volcker.
Well, I'm really sorry I can't be with you all this evening. 90 years is something to celebrate. It's a few more years of my life, but more important, you now have a stronger Washington connection. You've got an energetic new dean. But what's important about Maxwell is you have a mission, and you keep to that mission. I don't need to tell you that government's in trouble. There's kind of an erosion of trust, which is not a good thing in any healthy democracy. But Maxwell has kept the flag flying for government service, training for public service. That's critically important, and I hope you keep at it for decades to come. Meanwhile, congratulations on the past. Good luck. I hope to be with you as often as I can. Keep at it.
We are also here tonight to celebrate the legacy of Daniel Patrick Moynihan by presenting a new award in his name. It's going to be presented to an individual who, in her own way, is helping to extend the legacy of great public servants represented by Senator Moynihan. In my lengthy career at CBS, for 23 years, I did the Saturday news, the Saturday evening news. And so I'd get on the 9:30 shuttle here in Washington on Saturday morning, and I'd fly up to New York, work all day, prepare the news, and then come home on the 7:30 shuttle. And the 9:30 shuttle was always a great place to be. There was a young economist that I would often see on that plane, and I learned a little about economics from him. There was a senator named Bill Bradley from New Jersey, and I'd sometimes sit next to him and learn a little bit about China. And then there was Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who would often be flying back home to the home state of New York on Saturday morning, and whenever I could sit next to him, I found a whole lot about everything. Daniel Patrick Moynihan had the greatest breadth of knowledge, with the possible exception of Henry Kissinger, of any single person that I think I ever knew. And I would just be enthralled sitting next to him. All you had to do is say, "How are you, Senator?" And he would launch into this what would become a seminar where you just mostly listened, because he had a lot to say. And he was such a wonderful storyteller that you didn't want the shuttle flight to end. And if any of you ride the shuttle with any regularity, you know that is really saying something. So I have the fondest of memories of Pat Moynihan. To introduce the inaugural recipient of the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Spirit of Public Service Award, I present to you the evening's other co-chair, Donna Shalala, who also tells a pretty good story. She is well known to all of us as the longtime Secretary of Health and Human Services in the Clinton administration and of late President of the University of Miami. But she too is an enthusiastic supporter of Maxwell. Some of you here may not know this. She earned her PhD in social science at the school. President Shalala.
Thank you very much, Bob. It's an honor to present the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award. I first met Pat Moynihan when I was at Maxwell. I had that, some of you will remember, that tiny little office off Scotty Campbell's office in the dean's suite. And I had this huge, it was the late 1960s, so I had this huge painting behind me that had a big heart on it that said, "Make love, not war." One day I was sitting there, and Pat Moynihan stuck his head in. I was in a state of shock, because there was Daniel Patrick Moynihan. And he said, "Young lady, would you get me a cup of coffee?" Which I did. He didn't remember that when I came up for confirmation, but he did remember that I was a Maxwell graduate, and he took me in hand and took me around to meet some of the senators just before the hearing began, and he introduced me as a member of the Maxwell Mafia. So I'm honored to be asked to help to present this new award on behalf of the Maxwell School to celebrate an extraordinary man whose towering career reflected in many ways the traditions and the values of my own alma mater, Maxwell. The Moynihan Award is meant to recognize those whose lives and careers are focused on the public good, the common weal, as Senator Moynihan might have said in establishing it. We consulted closely with the Moynihan family and Senator Moynihan's widow, Liz, to create an award that honors the legacy of her husband. I know that Liz Moynihan regrets that she was unable to join us tonight, but we look forward to working with Liz and her family and making this award in Senator Moynihan's name for years to come. With it, we celebrate individuals, such as tonight's honoree, who carry forward the spirit of public service embodied by Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
Lauren is an entrepreneur, and she's a passionate advocate for ending hunger.
What I loved about Lauren Bush Lauren is she's a millennial. She's 30 years old.
Lauren is a really inspirational person to work for. I admire her personally because she really could do anything, and she's here at Feed every day with a company that she created to merge giving back with something she is great at, which is design.
The Moynihan Spirit of Public Service Award is new to the Maxwell School, and it is created to honor someone who has, in her or his own career, exemplified some of the goals of the Maxwell School. The Dean's Office put out an appeal for nominations for the Spirit of Public Service Award. Many people were nominated, and there was a committee which then reviewed the nominations and came up with a short list to propose to the Dean about people who were exemplary in their public service roles, who would be good role models for our school and our students.
Kathy wrote to us and said that Maxwell was looking for a hero. And as I read the application for the Moynihan Award, with words like empathy and industrious and purposeful and altruistic and driven, Lauren Bush Lauren came instantly to mind.
Feed started 7 years ago as a for-profit business in New York City that is a social business that gives its proceeds to feeding children around the world. Every bag we sell has a number stamped on it, and that number represents the amount of meals that that purchase will provide. Feed supports giving partners on the ground that are based abroad and here in America. So we support UNICEF and the World Food Program. Here in the States, we support Feeding America, which is the largest hunger relief agency in the United States, which funds food bank efforts around the country. So to date, I'm really proud to say that Feed has been able to provide over 85 million meals to children and families around the world and here in America.
Let me first acknowledge someone you just met in that video, Syracuse businesswoman Ann Messenger. And thank you. She first brought tonight's honoree to our attention. She nominated her for this award, so we owe her a great debt of gratitude. And now it's my honor to present the first recipient of the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Spirit of Public Service Award, Lauren Bush Lauren.
This is extremely humbling to be here. I am so proud to be the inaugural recipient of the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Spirit of Public Service Award from the amazing Syracuse University Maxwell School. Thank you to the committee, thank you to Ann Messenger, Catherine Bertini, the Dean of Students, the Chancellor, and the family of Senator Moynihan for bestowing this great honor upon me. It's truly an honor, especially given Senator Moynihan's wonderful, extensive career in public service. He made such an impact, and I am beyond humbled again to receive something bearing his name. So thank you so much. My awareness of this thing called public service started at a very young age. It was what my Gampy, George H.W. Bush, went to work each day to do in a big White House up here in D.C. It was what my uncles did as they entered the political arena in Texas and Florida. But it was also what my mom, who is here tonight, did by starting her own charity to help homeless and abused children when I was little and taking us around when we were very young to volunteer. So this concept of public service was like breathing air. It was just something you did. And it wasn't until I went to college and was contemplating what I wanted to do in my life after college that I really realized that public service wasn't a given. It was a path to be chosen. Starting as a sophomore in college, 10 years ago, I had the amazing, life-changing opportunity to travel around the world with the UN World Food Program. And through that experience, my eyes were opened to the realities of poverty and hunger that so many face. Unfortunately, over 800 million people around the world are food insecure, which means they wake up not necessarily knowing where their next meal is coming from. These statistics became very real for me in visiting rural, indigenous communities in Guatemala, orphanages in Cambodia, community centers in Tanzania, and women farmers in Chad, toiling under the hot sun with their babies strapped to their backs. But the program that I saw in action that really impressed me was the school feeding. And it happens in 62 of the poorest countries around the world. Children are given a free school lunch. And with this school lunch, it may not only be the only, many cases, unfortunately, the only meal they receive each day, but it's the reason that so many kids go to school in the first place. And in countries where girls' education just isn't as valued, the World Food Program essentially bribes parents to send their girls to school. And with that, the hope is that these children obviously have a much better chance of breaking out of the poverty cycle they're born into. And on top of that, the program costs so little. So inspired by my travels, I would come back to America where there's clean running water, paved roads, and bountiful grocery stores. The shock of returning was just as great as the shock of going. The vast disparity that exists in this world really hit home in a major way, and still does today. I knew I had to do something about it, but I didn't know what I myself could do, and I certainly didn't know what I could tell my other, my peers, my other friends to do, who wanted to get involved but didn't know how. The problem of world hunger, like so many major world issues, seemed so massive, so abstract, so far away. It was because of this frustration and my love of design that I came up with the idea, the very, very simple idea for the first feed bag. I thought, why not attach a measurable donation, the donation that would feed a child in school for an entire year, into a very, simple consumer good, a bag. And we started selling these bags in February 2007, armed with my first prototype and my first order from Amazon.com, Feed Projects, the social business with the mission to create good products that help feed the world, was born. And through our strategic partnerships with brands and retailers, we now have a whole range of products ranging from burlap tote bags to artisan-made leather bags to bracelets to diaper bags and much more. And really through consumers wanting to put their consumer dollars to do good, to date we've been able to give over 85 million meals. Thank you. And while I'm obviously extremely proud of this impact that we've been able to have thus far, I know there's so much more to be done. Beyond this meal count, I am most proud that Feed is a conduit for people to get involved in the issue of hunger, which in a very tangible and meaningful way. The power of people uniting as consumers, as Americans, and as global citizens to help others in need proves that we can all be public servants. When I was told I would be selected to receive this prestigious award tonight, I finally looked up the official definition of public service. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines public service to be the following: the business of supplying something to members of a community, something that is done to help people rather than make a profit, and work that someone does as part of a government, the work done by public servants. Given this definition of public service, I would like to pose a challenge to the amazing group of public servants here tonight. How can we help further activate the many more who do not yet think of themselves as public servants, yet when given the opportunity, want to make the world a better place? So in the spirit of my grandfather's points of light, and in the words of JFK, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. Lastly, I just want to share this great honor, of course, with my family, with my small and mighty feed team back in New York City, and with the humanitarian workers posted around the world and here in America who are on the front lines of fighting hunger every day. Without them, my work at Feed would not be possible. And I dedicate this to the spirit of public service that lives in us all. May many more be inspired and empowered to make the world a better, fairer, and more wonderful place. Thank you.
Well, I must say that was worth the price of admission, wasn't it? Very proud of you, Lauren. A real example for everyone. Well, as much as the purposes for this evening began with a milestone for the Maxwell School's history, we want to turn our attention now to its future. Your dean, my friend Jim Steinberg, recognized in the arrival of the 90th anniversary an opportunity to prepare the Maxwell School for opportunities ahead. Your next great anniversary, of course, will be a centennial in 10 years, and I know your entire community is engaged now in an exploration of how those 10 years, your 10th decade, will ready the school for its future. So I'm going to call back Jim Steinberg.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you all again for joining us on this special occasion for Maxwell. I'd like to begin by thanking our co-chairs, Donna Shalala and Sean O'Keefe, for their leadership on behalf of the school. And Sean, I think you know how pleased we all are that you'll be joining us on our faculty. And to Chancellor Kent Syverud and Ruth Chen for being part of this evening's program, as well as Syracuse University's Chairman of the Board, Dick Thompson. My special thanks to the Maxwell Advisory Committee, so many of you are here tonight, and the many supporters who helped make this evening possible. I want to offer a special thanks to Daphne and Jerry Kramer, whose lead gift of $500,000 to the Maxwell 10th Decade Project ensures that our efforts will get off to a fast start. I want to thank my good friend Bob Schieffer for hosting tonight and for his lifetime of commitment to stimulating and informed citizenry. And to Paul Volcker and his remarkable career of leadership in advancing sound and effective governance. I want to join my colleagues in paying tribute to Lauren Bush-Lauren for her commitment to public service in the finest traditions of Senator Pat Moynihan, whose contributions continue to be felt at Maxwell as they are around the world. And to Liz Moynihan and her family, our thoughts are with them. I also want to take the personal opportunity to thank the guests at my table, my special friends and colleagues, who've been such a support and inspiration to me. Sandy Berger, Strobe Talbot, Kirk Campbell, Lieutenant Governor Ben Barnes, who keeps my Texas tradition alive even in the cold north of Syracuse, to Steve Hadley, but most of all to my wonderful wife, Sherry Abbott. I'm also pleased that my good friend, Ambassador Swet Tianke, is with us here tonight. Thank you, Ambassador. And finally, and at least as important as anything I will say tonight, I want to thank the Maxwell staff who've been working for over a year to make this night, as well as the many other activities that we planned for the 90th anniversary celebration, so successful. To Linda Birnbaum, Kathy Sicarelli, Mary Pat Cornish, Dana Cook, Christina Lee Dietz, Gretchen Fitzgerald, Kevin Kawa, Jill Lenhart, Kara McLaughlin, Therese Quinlan, Norma Shannon, Bill Sullivan, Ann Wicks, Stan Ziba, and of course my estimable Associate Dean, Mike Wesselenko. Will you all stand, please? It's a great privilege to serve as the 9th Dean of the Maxwell School. I follow in very distinguished footsteps: William Mosher, Paul Appleby, Harlan Cleveland, Stephen Bailey, Scotty Campbell, Guthrie Burkhead, John Palmer, who's here with us tonight, and Mitch Wallerstein. You can get a sense from the posters outside just a small feel for the great contributions that each of them have made. I'm also privileged to work with an extraordinary group of faculty members, staff, and students. And several of our faculty, including most of our chairs and center directors, are here tonight. So I'd ask them also to stand for a round of applause and appreciation. And I'm also proud to be associated with 9 decades of Maxwell graduates who have made such important contributions to the life of their communities, carrying out the promise they each make on earning a Syracuse and Maxwell degree, the commitment embodied in the Athenian Oath to make their city greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to them. We have a number of our alumni leaders here tonight, past and present, and I've asked them to stand as well. They're very shy, but I'll tell you, they make a big difference. This is, as Bob said, a year of celebration to reflect on the remarkable history of Maxwell, the oldest school of public affairs in the country. But Maxwellians have never been ones to dwell on the past, but rather to embrace the challenges of the future. That's why when we at Maxwell began to think about our 90th anniversary, the conversation quickly turned to what we could do to make sure that Maxwell's 10th decade was every bit as consequential as the 9 that preceded it. I asked 2 of our very dynamic faculty, Professor Andrew Cohen from History and Professor Tina Nabachi from Public Administration and International Relations, to lead a discussion involving the whole Maxwell community to help chart a path forward and identify some innovative and promising initiatives that would carry forward the enduring purposes and values of Maxwell in the decade leading up to our 100th anniversary in 2024. Tina's here tonight. Andrew would have been here, but for the challenges of airplane transportation for Syracuse. So I want to thank them both for their leadership in this effort. Not surprisingly, the discussion they led quickly began to focus on what is one of the signature features of our school, our university, and our history, the idea of citizenship. As you saw from the video, from our founding, concerns about nurturing citizenship and civic engagement have helped animate our work in our research, our teaching, and our own public service. As we reflected on the future, there was a broad consensus, perhaps even more than at any other time in our history, the importance of understanding and promoting the concept of citizenship was a vital contribution that Maxwell and Syracuse University could make. We recognized that the context had changed quite a lot in 90 years, as globalization, technology, and demands for inclusion raised new questions about the roles and responsibilities of citizens and the nature of civic institutions at the local, state, and national, as well as global levels. At the same time, we saw that there are enduring lessons and values from our own past and our own experiences that could contribute to meeting today's challenges. Right now, we at Maxwell are in the process, an inclusive process, of identifying a preliminary list of challenges to help guide our work in the coming years. Drawing on our multidisciplinary strength in anthropology, economics, geography, history, international relations, political science, public affairs, and sociology, we hope to explore such fundamental issues as the rights and responsibilities of citizens to each other and to their communities, the implications of different concepts of citizenship in different cultures, societies, and eras, how to improve the responsiveness and effectiveness of public and private institutions to citizens, and how concepts of citizenship can be harnessed to expand opportunity, promote inclusion and respect diversity, mitigate conflict, and address pressing challenges like aging societies, economic opportunity, public health, and a sustainable environment. This work will build on the already vigorous focus we have today on citizenship, ranging from our widely acclaimed Max courses to our new signature major in citizenship and civic engagement, to the Tanner Lecture Series on ethics, citizenship, and public responsibility, which, thanks to Lynn and Margaret Tanner, who are here tonight, has brought some of our leading thinkers and doers on citizenship to interact with our faculty and students. It will draw on our research centers and institutes, which are already doing innovative work on many of these issues. The support that you've provided tonight will go to the 10th Decade Fund to help our faculty, staff, and students undertake these projects, ranging from path-breaking research to new approaches to teaching to public engagement. So I thank you again for your support and hope that we can all come back together in 10 years to appreciate the fruits of the work that we launched tonight. Of course, citizenship and public service is but one component of what we do at Maxwell, and in the coming decade, we'll continue to build on our many strengths in our academic departments and research centers, and increasingly, we'll be strengthening our tradition of interdisciplinary collaboration, not just within Maxwell, but with the many strong programs across Syracuse University under the leadership of our new chancellor. And we'll be building new ties with other cutting-edge institutions in the United States and abroad, as exemplified by our wonderful new partnership here at CSIS. I want to thank John Hamry and the CSIS board and staff for their enthusiastic embrace of this opportunity and look forward to the many ways we will work together in the future. The 10th Decade project that we launched tonight reflects our own deep commitment to carry on the work that has made Maxwell so valued and respected. Through this project and all the other fine work that takes place throughout Maxwell and Syracuse University, we pledge to you, our friends and supporters, that we will do what we can to quicken the sense of public duty and to make our city more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great evening.
Jim, that was terrific. I guess we don't have time for war stories, Sean.
Why not?
I did want to reassure the chancellor that I once occupied the administration building. And the chancellor at the time was nowhere near as responsive or as thoughtful as you are. So. Sean?
I simply want to conclude with where I began on this, that this, during the course of the history of the Maxwell School, it's been a continuum of extraordinary people who have led the university, who've been part of its community engagement. And I think that's a critical feature of this. At the moment in which the Maxwell School became the preeminent school of public affairs in the United States, its greatest supporter, its strongest advocate, was the chairman of the Board of Trustees at that time, and helped launch this to a different level. At that time, a state senator for the state of New York, engaged in community activities, went on later to become the ambassador to El Salvador. Doug Barkley and his wife Dee Dee are with us here this evening, and we thank you for that visionary view. Thank you. On behalf of Don and myself, thank you all very much for all of your support to make this a truly memorable evening and a great historic event. Thank you, Don.